The Banshees of Inisherin, The Meaning Crisis in 20s Ireland. Devereux Sandberg, 2023. Spoiler alert, considerable plot reveal. I want to recommend to you a movie that I've recently watched. It was recommended to me by a Turkish friend who I find to have impeccable movie taste. The movie is called The Banshees of Inisherin. It is set in Ireland in the 1920s and stars Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. Since its release last year, the movie has attracted a cult following, and many have enjoyed poring over its symbolism and posting their interpretations online. The standard interpretation seems to be that the movie depicts the tragedy of what can happen when friends fall out in a traditional and proud Catholic community. But this wasn't what I got from it personally. Living in an isolated farming community on a small island off the coast of Ireland, Parrig, Farrell, and Colm, Gleeson, have been long-time friends, spending their afternoons and evenings chatting together in the village pub. One day, out of the blue, Colm refuses to talk to Parrig anymore, later explaining that he is too boring and too nice. He feels like he is wasting his life listening to his stories every day. Colm, a keen fiddle player, wants to focus on creating the music that will serve as his legacy once his days are over. Parrig does not take this well. Clearly an oral type, he cannot reconcile himself to Colm's position and keeps trying to find a way to work his way back in again. Exasperated at Parrig's persistence, Colm finally tells his former friend that, should he speak to him one more time, then he will cut off his own fingers, one by one. Deeply shocked, Parrig understands that he must give Colm space, but still struggles with not being allowed to speak to him. Things come to a head one night when Parrig, drunk on whiskey, confronts Colm in the pub, raging at him for his lack of friendship. After Parrig has been taken out of the pub by his sister, Colm mentions that this was actually the best interaction that he'd ever had with Parrig, implying that he's warming to him again. The next day, emboldened by hearing of Colm's newfound respect, Parrig approaches him once again, down by the sea, to apologise for his behaviour the night before. Seeing his former friend now back in nice guy mode and once again breaking the agreement, enrages Colm, and he later cuts off his forefinger and flings it at the door of Parrig and his sister's house. The pair are horrified, yet later Parrig tells his sister that he must return the finger to Colm. She reproaches him deeply, unable to comprehend why Parrig can't seem to get the message. As the days pass, Parrig starts to drop the nice guy act and begins to find his anger at the way he's been treated. One day he spies Colm making friends with a new arrival on the island. He cruelly tricks the guys into leaving again, telling him his father has just died. Feeling empowered both by his newly found rage and his belief that if he's angry then Colm will accept him once again, Parrig once again approaches Colm, who seems at first amenable. Colm is excited that he's just finished composing his piece for the violin, entitled The Banshees of Inisherin. I found this scene gripping because I could sense Colm's inherent goodness in opening the door to Parrig once again. But after the initial exchanges, Parrig becomes more pally still, and I could feel a deep sense of foreboding. Despite all that has passed, Colm realises that nothing in Parrig has really changed, meaning that he has to take still more drastic action. Parrig leaves the scene, having invited Colm to the pub later. Colm, seeing no other option, cuts off the remaining fingers of his left hand. Once again he throws the severed fingers at Parrig and his sister's door. Returning from the pub, where Colm has obviously not been present, Parrig finds his sister packing her bags, having finally decided to leave the island for good. One can sense his underlying desperation at still more people leaving his life, but he remains aloof from it. However, later that afternoon, Parrig discovers that Jenny, his favourite little donkey whom he allows in their house, has choked to death on one of Colm's fingers. This is the straw that finally breaks the camel's back. Colm's continued refusal to speak to him, his sister's departure, and now the loss of his favourite animal, this accumulation of events serves to send Parrig into full-blown rage. He confronts Colm and tells him that he's going to burn his house down the next day, hopefully with him still in it. Parrig carries out his threat, unconcerned by whether Colm is at home or not. However, he leads Colm's dog away to safety. But Colm is not in the house and does not die. The next day, Parrig returns to Colm's house and spies him on the beach nearby. He gives Colm his dog back. Colm thanks him and suggests that they are now square. Parrig informs him that they would have been square had he died in the fire. The movie ends with it clear that the battle between them will continue. Parrig is the classic oral type from Reichian character structure. His need for friendship has driven him to adopt a nice guy persona and to be willing to do pretty much anything to maintain a connection. The roots of his condition will be in the lack of physical or emotional connection with his mother in the first year of his life. Being snubbed is Parig's worst nightmare because it brings the felt sense of his lack of early bonding to the surface. Underneath all the nice guy antics, Parig is of course filled with rage, and this finally emerges. Colm seems to me to be less obviously neurotic. He appears to be an intelligent, normal guy seeking something meaningful who finds his days being eaten away in meaningless banter. The spectre of his eventual death drives him to take extreme measures to regain his sense of meaning. Throughout the drama that takes place between them, Colm remains lucid and reflective. When asked about what's going on between him and Parig by Parig's sister, his reply is realistic and coherent. Seen through the lens of modern culture, I think Colm would be perceived as the one who is being unreasonable, whereas Parig merely wants to remain his friend. On the surface, it would seem like that is not so much to ask. But there clearly is a lot more going on here. Colm is actually relatively unconcerned about cutting off his fingers, even though in many ways he lives to play the fiddle. He is unconcerned because the savage act has given him his individuality and his meaning in life back. To me, there are deep statements here about the paradoxical relationship between our modern comfort-driven society and our inherent need for meaning. Finally, Colm is willing to give up the fingers of his hand to recover meaning. Having done so, he feels clear. But Parig, in many ways the archetype of the nice guy our society forges us to be, has now discovered his rage. Having done so, he will not let Colm off the hook so easily. Their entanglement will continue, quite likely until one of them dies. Thank you.